As the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse continue to push for justice in Washington, elsewhere in the country, another group of alleged child abuse survivors may finally get their day in court. For more than 40 years, Pentecostal preacher Joe Campbell led ministries for thousands of children in 4 different states. During that time, multiple girls came forward to accuse the pastor of repeated sexual abuse, some claiming the abuse happened when they were as young as 9 and 14 years old. But despite those allegations, and despite being banished from multiple churches, Campbell was able to continue preaching and running youth ministries. He even recently ran a summer camp for kids. That was until earlier this month when Campbell was arrested on charges by the state of Oklahoma, charged with first-degree rape and lewd or indecent acts to a child under 16. Campbell is currently behind bars in Missouri, awaiting extradition to Oklahoma. He has not yet entered a plea on the charges. Oklahoma authorities began looking into Campbell after an NBC News investigation published by myself and my then colleagues back in May. Our investigation focused on a group of Campbell accusers who had come together decades later seeking accountability.
These stories haven't changed. They were told to parishioners, they were told to clergy, they were told to parents, they were told to friends. Lots of people knew this story for 40 years. This story has not changed. My story has not changed. Your story has not changed. And still, yet he runs a camp for children.
People are saying, it happened so long ago, just leave it. Leave it alone. Why? Why leave it alone? If there's a chance, if there's just a chance that he can be held accountable, I want to tell my story.
Many of the women we spoke to for that story were told that the statute of limitations had elapsed on their allegations against Joe Campbell. But Oklahoma prosecutors now argue that a frontier-era law is on their side, and that the statute of limitations was actually paused when Campbell left the state in the 1980s. They charged Campbell based on allegations brought by a woman named Carrie Jackson, who says Campbell molested her for years during the early 1980s in Tulsa. She says she told church officials about the abuse at the time, but those leaders claimed her allegations were not credible and allowed Campbell to continue to preach. Soon Campbell left Oklahoma and moved to a church in Missouri. One of the women we spoke to during our investigation was Phaedra Creed, who was adopted by Joe Campbell and his wife in Missouri at age 14, and says Campbell would regularly abuse her at night after night, while his wife and children slept upstairs. She told a trusted adult who went to church leaders and then got the police involved. Authorities in Missouri charged Joe Campbell with abusing Phaedra Creed in the late 80s, but she says pressure from her church and her community shamed her out of testifying against him in court, and the charges against him were eventually dropped at that time. Today, she is one of the many women who has come forward seeking justice. And Phaedra Creed joins us now. Phaedra, it is so good to see you. Tell me, how did it feel? I have to know, how did it feel to hear that Joe Campbell was arrested and is now behind bars with no bail in Missouri? What does this moment mean for you?
I think I think I have a lot of mixed emotions with it right now. Some of that is, I think that anytime you have a situation like this, it does bring a sense of gravity, and we go through a lot of reflection because we need the legal system to actually do its job.
You know, there's a lot of conversation right now about what justice for survivors of sexual abuse should look like, because the Epstein files have become so central in our national dialogue. What do you believe the women, the survivors who've come forward in that case, deserve now? And what would your message be to people who tend to say things like, this was decades ago, and we've done all that we can do?
I'm very proud of Oklahoma for the work that they are doing, because some states have modernized these laws. But I'm still very frustrated, especially with Missouri. As you know, his arrest was not based upon my particular case and my particular story. And so for me, I still feel like I need some validation with that. I wish that Missouri would kind of get with the ball and be able to do what they need to be able to do to be able to get some justice in this case. I feel like some states seem to continue to prioritize procedure well over the people that they need in their states. And it's the same thing in those type of cases. Victims need to be heard. It's not a matter of victims just coming forward. We need to be heard. We need to know that we are being believed. And that's where the true justice comes, in my opinion.
Do you feel any fellowship with the women who've come forward in the Epstein case, who have traveled to the Capitol, tried to tell their stories about what a powerful man did to them?
Yes, I feel like it almost gives us a sense of belonging because we need to be heard. And sadly, what frustrates me the very most is that it's not just about the crime that is happening behind closed doors. The damage can actually come from what's happening outside in our culture as well. And I say that because I myself was bullied, I was harassed. Coming forward meant that I was losing my sense of community. It meant that I was losing my reputation and even my sense of belonging. And just because they wanted me to be able to stay quiet, I was harassed by a culture because they did not want to be the ones to deal with the truth.
I think some people see parallels to our current moment. I want to know, Phaedra, if you could talk to your 14-year-old self today, what would you tell her?
I really think that when it comes to that, I would probably tell her that she is not alone and that she could get through this. I have so much guilt because I never finished that situation, and to know how many other people could possibly be abused after I was. And if I could go back, I wouldn't have let anyone hold me down, which is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because now I have a voice and I'm no longer frightened, and I will be there to tell my truth. I told my truth in 1988 and 1989, and I will tell my truth now.
Did you ever think this day would come when you had the chance to tell your truth again on a national stage, and you may even get an opportunity to see him go to trial and be held accountable?
I honestly did not think this day would ever come. And I spent a lot of time talking to my family. I spent a lot of time praying about the situation and just knowing that if I was going to do this again, I was just praying for movement, something to finally take place.
And here it is. Phaedra Creed, so lovely to see you. Thank you for your bravery, for all the time that you spent speaking with me and our team to share your story. We don't take it lightly, and we're so grateful for you.
And I'm so thankful for all the work that you all have done and to be able to bring this to light. We are making a difference. We are going to change lives, and we're going to change that culture for future victims.